So I thought we'd start at the beginning, which is, in the Vedas, how far back does human history go?
It goes back forever. We have to understand that the Vedic cosmology involves a cyclical concept of time. And the basic unit of this cyclical time is called the Kalpa, or the day of Brahma. Brahma is the creator god in the Vedic cosmology. And his day lasts for 4,320,000,000 years. It's followed by a night, which also lasts for 4,320,000,000 years. And then there's another day, another night. The cycle goes on endlessly. And during the days of Brahma, life, including human life, is manifest in the universe, in the cosmos. And during the nights of Brahma, everything is dormant in a sleeping or dreaming state. Now, according to the Vedic cosmological calendar, we are about halfway through the current day of Brahma, which means it began about 2 billion years ago. So, as a Vedic archaeologist, I would expect to find evidence for a human presence going back about 2 billion years on Earth. And the Vedic writings speak of such things. You know, for example, there's the Bhagavat Purana. The Puranas are the historical writings of ancient India. The Bhagavat Purana says that at the beginning of the day of Brahma, there were human beings living on Earth, and it even gives examples of them. One of them was, his name was Dhruva. He was a very saintly king. So,
and this would date to 2 billion years ago.
Yes.
Yes.
But actually, we have to look at the day of Brahma. It is divided into sub-cycles called Manvantaras. A day of Brahma is divided into 14 Manvantar periods. And after each of them, there's a devastation, after which the earth has to be repopulated. Each Manvantar lasts roughly 300 million years, I think about 306 million years to be exact. And after each one, there's a devastation. Now, we're currently in the 7th Manvantar of the current Kalpa, or day of Brahma. That means there have been 6 before us. And that means there have been 6 devastations after which the earth had to be repopulated. Now, this personality, Dhruva, that I was mentioning, according to the Bhagavat Purana, he existed during the first Manvantar. And, you know, there's a sacred city in India called Mathura. And in Mathura, there are temples and sacred places that are dedicated to the memory of this person who existed during the first Manvantar of the Kalpa about 2 billion years ago. Even before that, you know, there was a night of Brahma. Before that, there was another day of Brahma. Human beings were existing. And then before that, there was another day of Brahma, another. So the human body, which is actually a vehicle for the soul, for the conscious self, has always been available for conscious selves who come to this level of reality, material reality. The original home of the conscious self, the world of Brahman, or spirit, or pure consciousness, is beyond time. There are no cycles of creation and destruction. That is our original home to which we are meant to return. But for those conscious selves in the world of matter, different vehicles are available to them. Human vehicles, animal vehicles, plant vehicles, all kinds of vehicles. Among them, the human vehicle is the most valuable because in the human vehicle, we have the chance to restore consciousness to its original pure state, beyond the cycles of creation and destruction that eternally go on this material level of reality. And that's actually the most important purpose of human life.
I have a question, a follow-up there. My understanding is this is true not just on Earth, but throughout the cosmos. This human vehicle is populated throughout the cosmos. Does the cosmos, do then other planets, I assume, star systems, also abide by the same days of Brahma and the same rules of creation, destruction?
According to the Puranas, the Vedic cosmological texts, there are 400,000 human-like species scattered throughout the entire cosmos. But it's a multi-level cosmos with different levels, with different kinds of energies. The level that we're on now is a very gross level in terms of its energy density.
Right.
There are more subtle realms of the cosmos. They're still material, but they're made of more subtle mental, intellectual, and egotistical energies. And on that level, the beings have vehicles made of more subtle elements than we do. And they have a longer span of life than we do. But essentially, that same human type of vehicle is there, but in a more subtle form. And even that form is a reflection of a higher spiritual reality. The pure conscious self in its spiritual essence has form and senses. And whatever we experience on this level of reality is a reflection of something that is ultimately real. The Vedic sages sometimes give the example of a tree reflected in water. If you see the reflection of the tree in the water, it's not the ultimate reality. If you try to take the fruit from the tree reflected in the water, you don't get it. But it points to the existence of a real tree. So our human form on this level of reality, it's limited in so many ways in terms of being subjected to birth, death, old age, disease, different kinds of trauma, psychological trauma, physical trauma. But it points to the existence of something that really exists on the higher level. And the reason why we're so dissatisfied with our condition here is that deep inside we have some memory of being beyond all of that. And that's what we're meant to recover in our journey through existence on this level of reality.
The Vedas and how they start expressing themselves in some of the lore that certainly we would do on shows like this, looking at what is known as the Lemurian culture and the Atlantean culture. How do the Vedas view these epochs of history? Are they given different names, different locations? Is it considered something entirely different? Let's just talk about those evolutions within human history.
Well, according to the Vedas, there are cycles within cycles within cycles. And we've mentioned some of the larger cycles, the Kalpas, the day of Brahma, the Manvantaras, which last about 300 million years. And then each Manvantara is made of a cycle of 71 Yugas. 71 cycles of 4 Yugas. So the first Yuga is called Satya Yuga. It's an age of truth, harmony, and people, according to the Puranas, during the Satya Yuga, they live for 100,000 years. There are no classes, and everyone is involved in yoga and meditation and contemplation. They live very simply and naturally. And that Yuga is followed by the Treta Yuga. And in the Treta Yuga, things become degraded by about 25%. And people in the Treta Yuga, according to the ancient texts, live for 10,000 years. And they divide themselves into classes. Some are intellectuals, some are rulers, some are farmers or business people, and then others are artisans and laborers. And they begin to live in towns and villages and cities. And there begins to be some division in society, but it's still, even though these divisions are there, people are still trying to act in harmony with each other.
What is tell me the name of it, that
The
particular
Treta
cycle?
Yuga.
Okay.
And that's followed by the Dwapara Yuga. And it's said that in that age, people live for 1,000 years, and there are conflicts, major conflicts that start. But they are conflicts that go on according to some kind of civilized rules and regulations. Now we find ourselves in the fourth age called the Kali Yuga, where people live a maximum of 100 years, and practically all spiritual principles are gone. It's a time of increasing environmental and social disturbance. But, it sounds pretty bleak, but just because it's raining doesn't mean you have to get wet.
Right.
You can shelter yourself, you can shelter others, you can turn even the Kali Yuga, at least for you and whoever is trying to do it, into another golden age. That ability is there. It all depends upon the choices that we make as beings of pure consciousness.
Where does it go after that? After the Kali Yuga?
To another Satya Yuga, another golden age.
Okay, so we're back and then we're going through this again. Okay.
Again and again and
So
again.
where in that would you place what we commonly think to be Lemuria or Atlantis and those
I
cultures?
would say those kinds of cultures refer back to at least the Dwapara Yuga. One of the features of the Dwapara Yuga is that people were in touch with higher beings at higher levels of the cosmos. In different cultures they had different names for them: gods, goddesses, devas, jinn, whatever.
Right.
Astral beings. That seems to be a feature of cultures that existed before the beginning of Kali Yuga, which was about 5,000 years ago. They had highly developed technologies, perhaps based on a more subtle science than we have today. I think a lot of our science today is our attempt to duplicate the achievements of previous cultures in denser energies.
there are choices that we're making within this, and we're watching ourselves learning very heavily through contrast and destruction. And many people do appear to be starting to ask different questions now, in the desire, internal desire to move back up into the realms of higher consciousness within us again. But as you say, these destructions do happen periodically. Wipes the slate clean. I'm not saying that's what we're headed for, but I mean, it does happen. Let's get into that process of once we've gone too far out of balance, once a massive destruction, be it natural or otherwise, does occur, there's a process for repopulating the planet and beings that help oversee that. Can you talk about that?
Yes, there are these periodic devastations that take place at the end of each Manvantar in particular. And we're now in the middle of a Manvantar period.
So we're not really slated for that to happen right now.
Not right now, in about 180 million years.
Right.
You know, in December of 2012, I was a speaker on a cruise ship that went to some of the Mayan sites, like Chichen Itza. And I was speaking about the Vedic time cycles. Many people were concerned at that time because one of the time cycles mentioned in the Mayan calendar was about to come to an end. And some people thought that that might involve some kind of cosmic catastrophe or devastation. And I told them that that is coming, but not in December 2012. It's about 180 million years from now.
That was very comforting,
So
I'm sure.
You can register for your next year's classes at school. You can continue to make plans for your life.
And you were right.
But it will happen. It has happened. And the Earth does get repopulated. To me, it's helpful to think of this in terms of cloud computing. You know, people keep their files and their songs and their pictures on the cloud, in the cloud. So if their device happens to get destroyed, well, you can always download it again from the cloud. So our cosmos is arranged sort of like that, so that if there is a devastation on this level of reality, there are resources and intelligence and personalities on the higher levels of the cosmos that can act to repopulate the Earth. According to the Vedic cosmological calendar, the Kali Yuga started 5,000 years ago. It will go on for 427,000 years. But those same writings tell us that the period we're in now is like, it's just like when winter is coming on. Sometimes you get a few warm days. So we're in one of those periods now where it's possible for there to be a golden age even in the midst of Kali Yuga. It all depends upon the choices that we each make as individuals.